30 years ago, the Berlin Wall fell. It ripped through the city, tearing families apart and turning lives upside down. Now, a group of people are stepping back in time.
Are you ready to go?
Yes.
To experience the wall again.
What on earth?
3 YouTube creators.
Oh my God. Wow. That is frightening.
Will discover its true horror.
This is really a place where people died.
And 3 relatives will get closer to their own family stories.
This man in this picture is my grandfather.
In a way they could never imagine.
Wow. It's incredible.
20 million Germans are in flight as the smoke of defeat clouds all Germany.
Out of the ashes of World War II, Germany and its capital Berlin are divided into sectors. The communists control the east, the Allied powers the west. As the years pass, millions of East Germans leave in search of a better life in the West. East German authorities believe their entire economy will collapse if they can't stop the exodus. In the early hours of August 13th, 1961, a brutal secret plan begins. Lines of barbed wire are laid out through the city, caging in all those living in East Berlin.
Whoa.
Oh,
It's just unbelievable.
this is madness.
God.
Look at this barbed wire.
It's kind of wild how just normal it looks, and then there's just this.
Yeah.
Just completely tore through. Where do you even begin to draw that line?
It's such a scar on the city.
Yeah.
This is just a normal neighborhood. Everyone's gone to sleep, and then they wake up one morning and they'll peek out of their windows and then see this.
It's all a product of greed, that one side wanting to hold on to every person, all of the manpower, all of the brain power to keep the economic stability there. When the process of doing that is destroying generations of families.
Yeah. And now you only know barbed wire like this from a prison.
Yeah.
But you're caging in people
Yeah.
that have done nothing wrong.
The people were pawns to be used for like this greater political gain. They have no say in it.
In these moments, one family living close to the border in East Berlin is faced with a life-changing decision, whether or not to flee.
This picture has been shown to me maybe at the age of 6. I can see my grandma in here, like a long time ago, as she was trying to escape before the wall was built. It's just the picture, but I think there's so much more I would love to know about the picture.
Are you ready to travel back to 1961?
I am.
Okay, let's go.
Let's go. It's just stunning. Just give me a moment to capture all these things.
So now here we are, face to face with your grandmother.
Wow. It's really incredible. I've never seen her as a young woman. If I would extend out my arm, I could almost touch her and give her a hug.
So this is 1961. It's the 17th of August, and we're at Bernauer Straße in West Berlin.
It's crazy. I know that street so well, but it feels different right now. I just want to know more. What's going on? What's happening?
I can't overemphasize what a critical moment this is. So this row of houses was where your grandmother was living at the time.
Yeah.
But what's so remarkable and so important about this street and about this address is that while the houses are in East Berlin, we are standing in West Berlin. And even when we stand on the footpath outside the houses, that's still West Berlin.
Yeah.
But the houses themselves are East.
Wow, that's crazy. I remember my grandma telling me that, and I didn't really get that when I was younger.
Now these border houses represent a security risk because you can use them to cross from east to west. Your grandmother and family have just heard that the secret police, known as the Stasi, are on their way to occupy the houses and to stop anyone from leaving. So in this moment, your grandmother and her family decide to go for it and to flee to the west.
I think she must have felt so much fear and confusion. What to grab, what to take, and where they're going.
And underneath the window, those two gentlemen that we see are just two passers-by who saw what was happening and just threw down their belongings and got stuck in and helped the family. If you look up there, you can actually see your grandmother's father, and he's hastily passing down what few small possessions he can that they'll be able to take with them.
Right. He's so close, you can really see his face, like what he's thinking. I can see like all these worries and fear and confusion.
So here we are in your grandmother's 1961 apartment, the room that they have just left. All these photographs, do you recognize any of them?
Yeah, I've seen that many times. It's in one of the photo albums my granddaddy and my grandma used to have. It's very emotional just seeing that, because it's part of my family. This is my blood.
Being in this room, we can really start to understand the sense of urgency that's in the photograph. If you look there, the chair has just been knocked over.
According to your grandmother's account of the day,
They're in the middle of lunch. Your grandmother's parents announced, right, that's it, we're leaving. They had an hour to pack and get out of there.
Yeah, I can see, you know, my grandma's daddy at the window as well. I didn't know that he was the last one in the room.
Absolutely. Him still being in this room is incredibly risky.
He's trying to take kind of care of his family, but he doesn't know what's gonna happen to them.
He knows that the police are coming. They've actually entered the building at this stage.
Wow.
He has barricaded himself into that room that we've just left by shoving a chair up against the door. He knows that everything hangs in the balance in this moment. He really just has to take that leap of faith. So he jumps from that window down onto the street and ultimately into freedom. Just days later, your grandmother remembers walking back to look at the street from the safety of the West and seeing that the windows of her apartment building and those all along the street had been bricked up.
Wow.
Any later,
Yes.
and they could have ended up trapped in East Berlin. There's so many outcomes that could have happened, and that would have had a huge impact on the future fate of your family.
It's an incredible feeling how my life would have been different. I feel a lot more connected now to my grandma. I'm very proud of her.
The communists built this barrier to keep their people from escaping to the free world, and it does just that.
in a matter of days, the lines of barbed wire are upgraded to a vast concrete barrier, closing off communist East Berlin from the Western world. Families are torn apart. Friends will never see each other again. the Berlin Wall is born.
Whoa.
Whoa,
That is big.
that is huge.
Oh. It's just so menacing.
Oh my God.
Madness.
I had no idea it was like this.
This is oppression, danger, segregation.
You'd not miss this.
Does this have any resemblance to modern Germany or Berlin?
This? No,
Yeah.
no. Now the city is such a diverse place, and of course you have the freedom to walk wherever you like.
The idea of families being ripped apart as they were here, it reminds me of what happened with my dad. He was born into an Iraq that was ruled by Saddam Hussein. All of his friends were being sent into the army to basically die for this awful man. You know, my dad had to take the decision, do I stay with my family, what I know, everything that I grew up with, or do I flee? And he decided to go. He's one of the lucky ones.
Yeah.
And this story is retold time and time again, not just in Iraq, but in Berlin and everywhere.
My great-grandmother was from East Germany, and she was Jewish and came to the UK in the early 1930s. Went back one time to visit her mother in 1936, and then after the war, still couldn't go home because of the divide in Germany, and then didn't go back to visit her hometown until the Berlin Wall came down. A lot of people would have experienced that here. Not seeing their family or friends for years, even though they lived like a street apart.
It's crazy, isn't it?
Yeah.
We are lucky to live in countries where we don't have this fear. So to know that this is only 30 years ago shows that it could happen anytime. So we have to be careful how things develop in our country.
We've got to keep a close eye on people who are in power.
Yeah.
What kind of language they're using, what they're saying.
If they want to build walls.
Yeah.
In the 3 years since it was built, 42 people have died trying to cross the Berlin Wall. With border guards ordered to shoot on sight, getting over the wall is now a risk few people are willing to take. But a group of students in West Berlin are hatching an ingenious plan.
This man in this picture is Klaus Michael von Keusler. He's my grandfather, and in this picture you see him building a tunnel under the Berlin Wall. It's a pretty unique story, and there's so much more that I don't know about the story that I would love to find out.
So Anton, are you ready to go back to 1964?
All right, let's do it.
Let's go. That's him. We are face to face with Klaus, your grandfather.
He looks so certain about what he's doing. I can see in his eyes that he has a plan. He's just like he is now, but younger. It's weird. It's like pretty much traveling in time.
So at the time, he was a law student in West Berlin. He was 22 when the wall went up. He was separated from all the people that he knew. And so he and a few other students embarked on the huge task of digging this tunnel under the wall in order to help his friends escape to the west.
It's incredible.
That's a winch that he's operating by hand, and it's full of soil from the tunnel because they have dug all of this by hand. What we're looking down now is 12 meters.
12 meters,
yes,
wow.
That's a 12-meter drop. What's it like?
It looks so narrow. It's so small, actually.
Yeah, it's only 1 by 1 meter.
Crazy. How long is that tunnel?
145 meters.
Wow.
If you look down at your feet, there should be an envelope. Can you pick that up?
Yeah, I see it.
Open it up and tell me what you see.
Paper with notes written on it. Nicht einschlafen, sofort ziehen. Which means like, don't fall asleep.
So you actually have in your hands and you're reading from
Yeah.
the actual notes that your grandfather used in the digging of this tunnel.
Right, that's crazy.
This is how they would have communicated with each other. They would have transported the notes via this pulley, via the winch.
Ah, that's so interesting.
Because of the distance and the noise, they had to do this as quietly as possible because there was always the risk of being caught.
It's incredible, it's incredible.
I wonder if he ever could have imagined his grandson would be holding them so many years later.
I don't think he actually thought about that when he was digging the tunnel. It's crazy to actually build that because, I mean, you know, like, it's just like you go down there with a shovel 12 meters and you work in here every day, probably for 6 months. And I would always be concerned, like, just it falling apart on top of me. Okay, I gotta get out of here. I want to go to the other side. It's super uncomfortable in here.
Beyond the door is something very special. This is the other end.
This is the entry point of the tunnel.
Exactly. So this is where the refugees are going to enter in from and then make their escape under the city.
Wow, it's so close to the border, though.
It's so close to the border. We're right under the noses of the guards. Between the 3rd and the 4th of October, your grandfather was successful in organizing the smuggling of 57 people through this tunnel and into escape.
Was it only in one night?
Over 2 nights.
Over 2 nights?
Over the course of 2 nights. Then the Stasi turned up, and they had been alerted by a tip-off. So that was the end of the tunnel. It still managed to free 57 people. And because of that number, this tunnel became known as Tunnel 57.
That's pretty mind-blowing.
Your grandfather seems like a remarkable character.
There are not that many people that would do something like that. That's pretty unique, and I think that like there are a lot of people who could learn from that, including myself, and that makes myself really proud about him. Even though the whole situation is far away from me right now, it's still something that actually is not that far as it seems. People are getting imprisoned for helping other people escape from their homeland because they can't live there anymore.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, those parallels can be quite strong.
To have the courage to help other people is something that you should really take from that story, I think.
As daring escape attempts continue, East German authorities double down on security.
No, you don't forget this wall. It stretches across Berlin like an open and festering wound.
As 20 years go by, it develops into a vast militarized border with 302 sniper towers and a force of 14,000 crack-shot guards. Running 27 miles through the middle of Berlin is an infamous central kill zone known as the Death Strip.
What on earth?
Oh my God.
Oh. What's the name? Oh my God. Wow.
Yeah.
That is frightening.
It's like this is a war zone. I feel like we're in the North-South Korea border, not in Germany.
And it's only 30 years ago.
The measures that
It's insane.
they've gone to, the effort.
Isn't it mad that this expanse began with one single
Yeah.
trail
Yeah.
of pathetic barbed wire?
Yeah.
And now,
On
look,
the
it's
ground.
a fortress.
Yeah. There are landmines, there are hounds, there are the guards in the towers who will shoot you instantly.
Trench over there.
Vehicle
Yeah.
blockers.
Yeah,
more barbed wire.
even with a tank, you can't
Yeah.
push through. No chance.
I cannot wrap my head around how big this is and how this is in the middle of Berlin.
Yeah.
That's what I'm trying to wrap my head around.
Yeah, this scale, insane.
I didn't think it was this aggressive.
Yeah.
This
So aggressive.
outwardly, obviously, unapologetically aggressive and
Yeah.
angry, and you know, they weren't beating around the bush with what they meant here.
Yeah.
And they wanted it to look this way. It looks like that.
The people in East Berlin were prisoners.
This is really a place where people died. Not just one or two, like dozens of people died here trying to get to the other side. This is insane.
And what a way to die as well, to be running to your family member, to freedom, and then to be shot, but not just that, then to be left.
Yeah.
Just
Yeah.
left as an example, probably,
Bleed
to
out.
others.
Yeah.
No one's gonna come and get your body.
Insane.
The communists call the wall a modern border. This is to ease the idea of a whole city living the life of a prisoner.
By the late 1980s, public pressure is mounting against the wall. People's lives in the East had become a grim reality of hardship, brutality, and complete state control. But with the Cold War thawing, the international community urges Mikhail Gorbachev's Soviet regime to rid Berlin of its so-called wall of shame.
Mr. Gorbachev, tear down this wall.
Today we have decided to introduce measures permitting every citizen to leave by any crossing points.
On November 9th, 1989, thousands of Germans come together to witness the border being opened for the first time in 28 years. Finally, the East Germans are free.
I've got a picture of my uncle, Wolfgang, and he was there at the fall of the Berlin Wall. It's definitely an amazing photo, especially for my own family. It was a very important moment in history, but I don't really know anything about it.
Let's go. This is your uncle.
Amazing. That's insane. It's overwhelming.
We've arrived at a really important date. This is the 10th of November, 1989. We're in West Berlin, just yards from the Brandenburg Gate. And it's the morning after the announcement that the border between East and West Germany is going to open up for the first time in 28 years.
Wow.
What we see is your uncle with the German flag in this incredible moment of celebration.
I think he's very determined, and he's totally happy and sure about what he's doing.
There's an amazing story about how your uncle came to be here. According to first-hand accounts, it happened right where we're standing just the day before.
This is the day that they've made the announcement that the border is going to open between East and West. There's a huge kind of carnivalesque atmosphere. Wolfgang jumped up on the wall. Lots of people jumped up, surged onto the wall. But then the East German soldiers started pushing everybody down. In the meantime, people literally just started laying into the wall and just trying to pull it apart.
Even though they had no idea whether the East German guards would shoot or not.
I don't know, actually, if I would have been brave enough to do that.
The section of the wall gives way, but because it's so heavily reinforced, it gets stuck at an angle. And for a moment, your uncle is trapped beneath.
Wow.
When you can see it's coming down, you almost want to jump out of the way.
Yeah, you're right.
This is the beginning of the end of the Berlin Wall. You can almost feel all of that emotion. Your uncle celebrates through the night, and in the morning, he's handed a flag. The flag is one that belonged to the family of one of the friends that he'd traveled down with. And he just picked it up and held it aloft like that, and this image was captured.
Now I know what he's been through. I think I can understand him even better than before. Young people take it for granted that we can move freely, think freely. One of the things that scare me most, it's not so long ago. Even my parents or my uncle have experienced this.
You can feel the comradeship and imagine what the energy must have been like.
I think it's some kind of electrifying moment, as if there was something in the air when you know something's great and important is going to happen.
And apparently, when the wall came down and the flag was being held, there was lots of chanting, and one of the phrases that they were saying was, "We are one, we are one." This is the end of this brutally divisive wall and system that has divided the country for 28 years.
Yeah.
So it's a real moment of unity.
For young people today, I think it's very hard to imagine what it was like to live in a country which is divided. The story of the Berlin Wall is very important. And I think it's crucial to tell the story again.
I think it's very easy to take freedom for granted. We live in a world where borders seem to be getting more and more important. I think the story of the Berlin Wall is, it feels hugely relevant today.
What we've seen over time is that people power gathering as big masses, big populations together to demand change actually causes change. One person climbing over the wall is going to die. 100,000 or 1 million people coming to the wall together will demolish it.
I hope you enjoyed Virtually History. You can explore the Berlin Wall and all of the stories featured in the show yourself in full 360 VR by clicking directly to the right. To see other original shows, click the button in the bottom right.